Hello and welcome into this week's edition of Intercollegiate Conversations, as we're pleased to be joined by today's special guest, Tanner Gardner, who is the Director of Athletics at Pepperdine University. And Tanner, appreciate the time in joining us. I know how busy you guys are working in the athletics field there in college, but let's go back to the beginning of it for you. Tell me how you first got started working in college athletics.
Yeah, Luke, thanks for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you and share a little more about my journey. I have a non-traditional journey relative to many others who work in the college athletics industry. While I was a student athlete in college, I was a wrestler at Stanford. During my time in college, I actually never anticipated that my profession would be in college athletics. And so when I left Stanford, I went into the business world and worked for a company called the Boston Consulting Group doing management consulting. Happened to work on a couple projects in higher educations, which was a bit unusual for my firm, but ultimately through that, and I guess I would say a calling from God, ultimately was felt called to go work in college athletics. And so I got my MBA at Harvard Business School. After that, I worked a couple more years for the Boston Consulting Group. And then in 2014, guy by the name of Joe Carlgard got the job as the athletic director at Rice University. I knew Joe from Stanford, and I joined him there in August of 2014.
With that said, how much change do you think you've seen over the course of your career in college athletics? And of course, that kind of excludes name, image, and likeness, transfer portal, the things that us sports fans focus on. But behind the scenes, working day to day in college athletics, have you seen a lot of change in the industry over the course of your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been significant change, right? I guess my first experience with college athletics was in 2002 during the recruitment process, and then 2003 when I matriculated on campus. And certainly I never had a full view of what college athletics administrators did at that point. But things seemed much more simple then. That was really before the advent of social media. Interestingly enough, Stanford was one of the first two schools on Facebook. I guess in the spring of 2004, Twitter wasn't around, maybe MySpace was around, but social media really wasn't a thing at that point. And so I think, the communication cycle was a little simpler, a little bit slower. We're at the advent of streaming, right? So this is my context and my entry into college athletics. Fast forward today, we have a constant news cycle. Social media is everything, video, creative is everything. The demands are significant. And, I think as you kind of look at how revenue's grown as an industry, even though that hasn't been distributed equally, how it's grown over the past, 20, 25 years, that's created the opportunity to do more with our industry, which in many ways is a really good thing, but certainly introduces challenges as well.
With that said, over the course of the 2+ decades that you have spent in college athletics, what's something you know now that maybe you wish you knew back then that when you were first starting out that you think could have made things maybe a little bit easier for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think having been a what I'll call an Olympic sport athlete at Stanford, where you just don't have a good viewpoint for how an athletic department works. And so I think as an individual student athlete, you always think that you and your sport should be getting more attention, and that, the reason you're not is because maybe others are choosing not to do that in a very distinct way. But now being on the other side, the demands of what we as college athletic administrators are asked to do are just significant and much more than we could ever fulfill. And we love our student athletes, we love our teams, and we want to give them as much coverage and attention as service as we can. But when resources are limited, you have to make trade-offs. And so I wish I knew how much administrators cared about who we are and what we did, and that maybe exactly what we did for them wasn't necessarily a reflection of how much we cared.
How much do you think being that college athlete has helped you now in this role, working, on the administration side, working your way up to a director of athletics now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps me significantly. Particularly because I was in a sport, at least at Stanford, that wasn't necessarily well funded. We were kind of in the bottom quartile of funding. And so, I understood what it was like to operate in a meager way. And like I personally can speak to that to each of our coaches and each of our student athletes. And I think that just gives me a unique understanding of what our coaches are going through. It gives me a unique understanding of what our student athletes are going through. And it also gives me a sense into their mind of, hey, what might they be thinking and what might I be able to do to help push them forward, whatever that might be. But, I think my time as a student athlete was invaluable, and now how I interact and work with our constituents today.
Let me give you a chance here to give the elevator pitch for Pepperdine. I mean, you can look behind you and see it's known Pepperdine is one of the best, if not the best, campuses in the country for colleges and such a great area. But beyond that, what else makes Pepperdine so unique and so special when it comes to the athletic department and the school?
Yeah, great question, Luke. And by the way, well, this is a virtual background. You could probably take this shot 5 of every 7 days, and it would be accurate. I actually have the good fortune of my office looking over the ocean, and my joke or my shtick is that it's arguable that I may or may not have the best athletic director job in the country, but no one can argue that I have the best view of any athletic director in the country. So there's that. Obviously people know us for our view, but I actually think what we're trying to do at Pepperdine is very distinct. We are endeavoring to be a championship athletic program built on Christian values, academic excellence, and community. And I think the combination of what we can do combined with championship athletics is unparalleled. And I think there's no one else who can do it as good as we can. And so, while that value proposition may not be for everyone, I believe there's a lot of incredible, excellent student athletes and families who want that. And so, when you have something that's differentiated, unique, and valuable, and you can do that better than everyone else, then you have the opportunity to be great as an organization.
This next question might overlap with what you just said there. You made the move to Pepperdine here in the last 12 months, so I'm sure it's those qualities that stood out to you. But I guess in general, as someone who's worked in college athletics, what are some of those qualities that you personally look for or suggest maybe others should look for to know, hey, this school, that's a good or right fit for me?
Yeah, good question. I mean, look, I'm going to say something general and then say something a little more specific. So generally, when I think about kind of career position, I think this came from maybe Daniel Pink and some of his writing, but he talks about three things contributing to job satisfaction: purpose, autonomy, and mastery. Purpose is about mission alignment, and do you believe in what your organization's doing? Autonomy is really speaks to the relationship of you and your supervisor. Do you have the autonomy to do what you want to and need to do in an organization? And then mastery is about growth. You have the opportunity to master a task. You have an opportunity to grow. And I think where you have purpose, where you have autonomy, and where you have mastery, regardless of the industry, I think you're going to have a good career and you're going to be happy in what you're doing. Specific to athletics, in today's environment, I think the most important thing is alignment. If you have a board of regents and a president who are supportive and prioritize specifically athletics, that makes an organization a great place to work. So, back to the general comment regarding purpose, Pepperdine's endeavoring to be the preeminent global Christian university, and that's something that I really wanted to get behind. Speaking more specifically to athletics, we have a president in Jim Gash, who not only supports athletics, but it's a priority to Jim in achieving our university vision. I think there's a compelling case that an excellent athletic department contributes to big visions. Jim believes that, and as a result, that's a key priority at our university. We're an excellent academic institution. We have distinct values, and the more that we can tell those stories, the better we're going to enhance those areas. And I think athletics is a great medium to do that. And so when you have the alignment from the regents to the president to the athletic department, you have the condition for success.
You've carved out a great career for yourself in this industry. A lot of people will love to be, in the position you are. So let me give you a chance here to brag about yourself. What do you think are some of the qualities? And I'm sure some of them have already been mentioned throughout this conversation, but what do you think are some of the qualities that you possess that have allowed you to have the successful career you've had so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think hard work first and foremost. I mean, I think, working hard and showing up is so much of your success in life. My boss, Joe Carlgard at Rice used to say, be the master of things that take no skill, which is effort and attitude. So effort's about hard work, and then attitude is just having a positive attitude. I'm naturally a positive person. People will tell you I'm kind of the spark plug, whether that was in my time at Rice or in my time here. And so I think though attitude and effort are two things that have made me successful. I'm a very curious person. I'm always asking why, how can we do things better? And so I think that contributes to it. And then, I also think I've, got lucky in many ways, and I just kind of hit the jackpot. I ended up picking up wrestling late in life. I ended up being good at it. And then that ended up leading to Stanford, where I was able to get a scholarship, and I would have never gone there if it wasn't for getting an athletic scholarship. And really, that was kind of the start of it. And so, and then I feel blessed that I felt like God called me to work in college athletics. I feel like this is my purpose in life, and it's my ministry, my profession, and what I love to do. And so that's a bit of luck, but just really, I think pursuing and being thoughtful about what our calling in life is something that's led me to where I am today.
I've been told sometimes you have to ask the dumb questions to get the good answers. So let me ask a bit of an obvious question here and ask you how important is networking and relationship building when it comes to college athletics?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's important. Although I think what's most important is doing your job well. Uh, Doing your job well is not always going to get you recognized, but I think it's a precursor to career advancement. So while networking is important, I think kind of capabilities are even more important than that. And so I think the first thing uh, any employee has to do is be excellent at what they do. Really lean into that. That being said, that alone is probably not going to help you with career advancement. And so, I think networking, and particularly, I think finding a professional mentor and advocate is something that's very, very important. I was fortunate that my athletic director during the second half of my time at Stanford was Bob Bowlesby, who was the athletic director at Stanford for, I think, 6 or 7 years before moving over to the Big 12. Um, and when I kind of had this vision that I wanted to work in college athletics, I called Bob and I asked him for his advice. And that was the start of an even deeper relationship than we had than when I was a student athlete. And, Bob since then has been a great professional mentor to me. He's been able to make connections for me that I only really could have got through him. Um, so I think seeking out that professional mentor is kind of the web into the network. And I'll say, Bob took my call, but he didn't take my call because I was Tanner Gardner and something special. He took my call because I was a Stanford student athlete who had been there when he was. And I think we as athletic directors and athletic administrators want to help those who came through. And generally, we want to help aspiring professionals in general, but it takes the initiative of that young person to make the first outreach.
We encourage everyone to, of course, check out intercollegiate.co, the most comprehensive job board in college athletics. On the flip side of networking, how impactful and important do you think job boards are? Or maybe even from your role as the director of athletics on that side of the hiring process, how impactful do you think job boards are in college athletics?
Yeah, I mean, I think job searches are a mix of, um, I guess, art and science. Maybe the art of it is having a network, knowing people, knowing who to call, and kind of having that list of who might be a good candidate. But I think the science of it is the job boards, right? And so I think those are important, and because you think you know who you want, but either you may not be able to get that person, or who you thought you want may not be the person you want. So, one of the best employees that I ever hired came through a job board posting. So one of the most important positions I hired right when I got to Rice was a director of business strategy, someone to kind of run the strategic analytics of our department. And I had some people in mind that I thought would be good fits. Um, but Paul Halakart course ended up hiring, ended up seeing our position on the job board, and he randomly applied for the position. He ended up being one of the greatest employees I'd ever hired. And so I don't think networking or job boards are alone the silver bullet in their own right. I think they really work together.
Have you noticed any changes over the course of your career or the last, say, decade when it comes to the hiring process? The amount of candidates, the type of candidates looking to work in college athletics, what sort of differences, if any, have you seen there?
I mean, I do believe the notion that there are people leaving our industry post-COVID is a real thing. I mean, I think the allure of working in college athletics may have worn out. What I don't know if this is a permanent correction or a partial correction. I think prior to COVID, many of us worked in college athletics, a lot of hours for little money. And then I think during COVID, that showed people that maybe that's not what I want to do and that there are other opportunities out there. And I think particularly in the marketing communication side, I think a lot of people left our industry, presumably for better jobs or something that they thought was better for that matter. And so I think maybe the depth of the talent pool is smaller than it used to be. But once again, I don't know if that's a permanent change or if that's just a temporary change post-COVID, because I still do believe the things about working in our job that make it great, many of those still exist, right? We're still here to serve the student athlete. The student athletes are at the heart of our enterprise. And if that's why you want to work in college athletics, that hasn't changed. You might have to do more of serving them, but the why behind what we do still hasn't changed. And so that's one thing that I certainly haven't seen change during my years in the business.
Well, we're certainly pleased to be able to partner with Pepperdine. I don't know how much time you in particular have spent with Intercollegiate, but I do just want to ask you one question about it. And if anything in particular stands out about Intercollegiate and the different tools that are at your disposal with Intercollegiate and the Intercollegiate Recruiter.
Yeah, I mean, I was someone that's being new to intercollegiate and then also having a couple positions posted. I mean, I think what's been most beneficial to me in using the tool is because did call it the easy filtering of it. And so I think the ability to have not only a broad candidate base, but an easy way to sort through those leads in a very distinct way based off characteristics of geography, salary, experience, years of experience, or types of experiences has been really valuable. And, we talk about network versus or art versus science and job searches, that it really brings good science to job searches, and some candidates have emerged that maybe we otherwise wouldn't have had on our radar.
We'll end on this. We always end with this last question. What do you think is the best piece of advice you've ever been given in your life or career that you think you apply or use, in your role now as a athletic director in college athletics?
I'm going to give you two. One of them I've already, or both of them I've already said. One was what Joe told me at Rice, which is be the master of things that take no skill, attitude, and effort. If you send me an employee that has a good attitude and works hard, then they can probably do 90% of the jobs in our athletic department from an administrative standpoint. The second piece of advice, and this is specific to the industry, is keep the student athlete at the heart of what we do. That doesn't mean we're going to be able to always give them everything we want, but never forget your why. If you're not working in college athletics to serve the student athlete, then this is not the right industry for you. And so always keep the student athlete at the heart of what you do.
A big thank you to this week's special guest, Tanner Gardner, the Director of Athletics at Pepperdine University, for taking the time to join us. And a big thank you to you as well for taking the time to watch this video. We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss any future content or conversations. New intercollegiate conversations are released right here every Monday. We also suggest that you check out intercollegiate.co. It's the most comprehensive job board out there for college athletics. And if you already work in college athletics, well, make sure to claim your profile as well. It's free to do so. Intercollegiate.co. Till next time, life's just a series of hellos and goodbyes. So for now, we say goodbye.